Okay. Oh, Michael's taking a swig. Welcome to week two. This week we have our special
Yay!
guest, Bec Legato.
Oh my God.
Welcome back to the show, the
It,
first guest star.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, truly.
How are you
It's an honor
feeling?
for you to be here with us.
How are you feeling with the season so far?
I'm feeling a lot of things. As some of you know, I have lost two out of three of my draft picks.
I can
So,
here. I'll give the viewers some context with the new fantasy rankings.
of course,
Beck,
it's
you
it's
are you are tied for last place right now with 29 points.
no. Yeah, I feel like I'm really excited for like where this season is going. I will say a small part of me, while sad that the prospects of me winning this season are slim to none, I'm also a little bit happy because I feel like whenever I have any stakes in the game, I get really stressed going into an episode because it's
Hmm.
like, especially if like you kind of start to realize that like a player that you have is on the outs, it's like, are they gonna go out? Are they not? And especially if
Hmm.
they're like
Hmm.
on the chopping block with somebody else, it's like, okay, they're either like gonzo or there's like a chance that they could make it through. And
Yeah.
so I felt like especially with season 46, I had like a couple of a couple of people who got
Basically.
like who got like pretty far. And so I was like, by the time all of them got out, I was like, I'm actually like so much happier watching like I have mistakes in the game. I can just watch it for the plot. I don't have to like get like secondhand stress every time I see like one of my characters on the screen. And so it's like I'm kind of chilling because especially
Does
like
make the
if it,
challenges way more intense.
yeah, because it's like, oh my God, like I hope my tribe doesn't lose because like if they
Yeah,
lose,
yeah.
I'm fun. So yeah,
Let
makes
me
it a
let
little
me
bit.
give a quick recap for the viewers. Abby is in first with 69. She was in first last week, holding on to that spot. Sean
Wow.
jumped up from like I think he was in
Ugh.
10th place before.
Wow.
Him and Abby both had like the highest point. Sean and Abby, Sean, Abby has 69. Sean has 58. I guess Emily has 53, but like, there's like a big like they are like out in front of everyone right now. And then other than that, I mean, it's actually kind of funny. Beck not only there was two people that chose the first boot. It was Beck and Adam, and they both chose the first and second boot, which is like, what are the odds of that happening?
Yeah.
I have no idea because it'd be so funny.
Astronomical.
It would be so funny if like this was the moment where I was like, yeah, we coordinated it the entire time. We didn't. Um,
Hmm.
we
Let
did
it be
not.
known. Let it be known. Adam last season picked Hannah and Sean, and the season before, what was? Didn't he have something? His other pick was Bruce, which was like his greatest pick like in history is Bruce from 45, which is not, I don't know, not not to like just
And then
rip into Adam on the pod here, but
and then
Crazy.
not
in
the best track
46 he
record.
picked Jess. Um
Right. Yes, yes. Oh no, he picked Randon,
and
the
Brandon. Yeah.
medevac. Holy crap.
Oh,
Yeah. Um
So
yeah. I feel like Random would have been a really good pick otherwise, because I think he kind of gives the same vibes as the vibes that Gabe is giving right now, where it was like he's kind of able to play
he
that double
was
game.
he was on track to find an idol, but
Yeah,
he didn't even get the idol points because he didn't actually get the idol yet. It was
that's
insane.
that sucks.
wait, Gabe? Gabe did, right?
No,
Or are
no,
we talking about
Randon.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Um.
Womp womp.
All
Yeah.
right, but
No, so back I am curious. Why TK? Why
Oh,
pick TK like before? What was your before thoughts and like during this? Like, how did they change? Are you glad he's gone? Do you wish he was still in? What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts on this, so I'm really glad you asked because so my mentality going into this season and going into the season's picks was that I knew already from the beginning of the start, like I wanted John for no reason other than the fact that I love Pod Save America and I am a fan of that podcast. So I was like, I simply must. But then choosing the other two people, I didn't do a ton of research. I watched a single YouTube video of them like kind of introducing themselves, and so I knew I wanted somebody who was like on the stronger side to kind of balance it out because my first two picks was John and then Caroline, who she said in her like intro video that she did water polo. So I was like, okay, that seems to bode well. Like she'll probably be able to like get through, but she isn't like so like strong that it'll be like she's standing out. But then for my last pick, I was like, okay, I feel like I have to kind of balance it out with somebody who will like be the strength of a tribe and will like kind of carry them through for at least pre-merge. But I guess I watched a little bit too much of like old Survivor because like new Survivor is like a completely different vibe of like no strong people make it to merge because they just don't care anymore about like it
That
just
is
doesn't like they're nearly as interested about winning as like old Survivor was. And so it's just like it's interesting to see because like obviously like TK was the first boot and like I will be honest, I was kind of happy that he was booted because I like, yes, he was my pick, but also, yes, he was so annoying and he was just saying all the wrong things and was just not a good choice, period. So,
One
yeah,
thing I would like to say is I hope that if Blue Tribe keeps losing, I hope it becomes like an all-female tribe because I can't stand the men on that tribe. Like
I
Kyle's
completely
the only
agree.
okay one, and I'm scared that's because we don't even see him at all.
Kyle. There was actually a secret scene for this past episode that was like,
Ooh.
I think you would like Kyle a lot more if you saw this scene. He caught a bunch of crabs for the tribe, and then he was having like an existential crisis of deciding whether or not he's going to eat the crab or not because he's been vegetarian for like the past like 8 years, and he literally was like, I feel bad. I don't want to like eat. I don't want to harm anything with like a heartbeat. Like I haven't eaten anything with a heartbeat in like 8 years, but I have to do this like for my family, yada yada yada. Which it's very interesting. There's been a lot of secret scenes for this season so far that it's like they seem very like impactful scenes. But it's with every secret scene they're obviously taking it out because it wasn't like worth it enough, and whether that's because it was like relevant to that episode or relevant to like what will happen later on in the season, it's like you know sometimes it's just a time thing, but it's other times it's like, well, maybe we're not going to show this because it's not actually setting up like the future. So like maybe that means Kyle like won't go as far, or maybe it just couldn't fit. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I will be honest, if Lou does go to tribal again, I feel like there's a good chance that Kyle could be the next boot because it does seem like Sue, Caroline, and Gabe have a sort of alliance going on where Tiana is kind of like an extension of that, at least for the moment. And so, like, I think because he was on the outs of this last vote, I feel like there's a good chance that he could be going the next round. But I also feel like if anything comes out about like Gabe potentially like turning on his initial alliance to work with the other guys, I feel like that could also stab him in the back. I personally kind of hope it does because I don't really personally like Gabe much, but I don't know. Everyone's
I
like,
it
don't fuck with
it
Gabe.
is very interesting. Like Gabe preseason was like, I'm not here to make friends. Like I'm fine with being the villain of the season, but so far he like hasn't. I'm like he said like they might be doing like a slow start because he had the like audio clip it of like this past episode of like calling Carolyn and Sue like wounded birds and how he like wants to use them and take them to the end because he knows he can beat them, which is like an insane thing to say.
I
yeah,
hope Sue like punches him. like, and like he gets medevaced. Like that would be
Yeah.
great. I would love that personally.
Yeah, I agree. As somebody who has Caroline on her draft pick as well, I think I just like Gabe really sees himself as this like male savior to them, which is not at all true because they're so insanely self-sufficient that it's like you do not need to come in and act like you're this insane savior that you clearly are not. So,
Yes.
So I watched TK's exit interview with Rob, and it was very interesting. Like he laid out like a lot of things that weren't showed in the episode, and TK was like acting crazy this past episode, like, but he definitely like I don't know it kind of like I remember after during and after the episode I was like, why the hell did I pick TK? Like the I just he wasn't even like in like that high on my rankings initially, and then he's just slowly like raised up my rankings. Um, but he mentioned how the the conflict between him and Tiana, um, it wasn't necessarily it was they kind of like slightly they put took out apart because they got back to beat the beach, right? And um, TK basically told Kyle and Tiana that was like his main alliance. Like, we can't trust Gabe. He has an idol. I'm gonna go like rip into Gabe about the challenge because Gabe apparently was like really awful at communicating. Like during the challenge, he was like, Kyle and TK, you guys have to like listen to me and like do everything I say and like
Oh my god.
no input like back. And so TK's like, I'm gonna go to Gabe. I'm basically gonna like rip into him, scare him to like force him to play his idol, and then we'll like go from there because like he just like we need to like get this. He's either gonna play the idol or like we can't work with him. Um, and then it was something about Kyle's like okay, and then he went to Tiana and was like TK was apologizing to Gabe, and Tiana was like, why is TK apologizing to Gabe but not me? But TK didn't necessarily apologize to Gabe. Like,
yeah,
so there's a weird like miscommunication there that probably was like too complex to try and like fit in like the 90-minute episode. But it's like very interesting how like I don't know. It's just like I understand Tiana. I mean, for you, like, do you guys think Tiana made the correct decision with, or I guess she probably, if she had to choose between working with like Gabe or TK, like from our perspective, knowing what type of player Gabe is.
I think in my perspective, I think in the long run, I think TK would have been a better alliance because I feel like Gabe kind of is in this mentality of I'm not really in any alliances other than like really with Sue. Um, and so I think honestly, if she had the chance to like do a girls' alliance before the whole like guys' alliance even formed, I think that would have been a better alliance than really any of the other options. So
Hmm.
essentially neither, but I think in terms of like if you're asking like Gabe versus TK, I think TK like granted, was he kind of annoying? Yes. Was he a little insufferable in
Oh
a
my
lot of
god. Yes.
also yes. But I think he would have been a really strong ally regardless, and I think he would have stuck by Tiana. So
Hmm.
that was my perspective throughout the matter, but also like she did not know the full scope of like what Gabe is doing, I guess. So
Hmm.
I don't know for
I
sure.
will say between her choices, this tribal, like to vote Sue or to vote TK,
Hmm. Yeah.
I think she made the better call.
I agree.
If the vote was between Gabe and TK, then I think it'd be more up in the air. But the reason why is I think Gabe already has like this huge target on his back. Like he's commanding, his bossy, his social skills suck. Um getting people to turn on him will like not be hard. He's shady, he's shifty, he's bad at communication.
Yeah.
Like I think I think it's so easy for Tiana now to just be like, "Hey, Sue, Caroline, like let's just like form an alliance. Gabe like isn't trustworthy. He does like this shady shit." And then I think like there's a really big chance that Gabe could go next, like if Blue goes to tribal. I think there's like a very like good chance of that happening because I think he's just like so, at least from what I've seen, it seems like his communication skills are just so poor. I know in the first episode he talks with Sue and he's like, I found the idol, and Sue's like kind of celebrating for him, and yes, she's kind of making a spectacle, but Gabe is literally like, shut up, shh. And I'm like, you don't like fucking tell someone that. Like that's just
And
like he's not likable. He's I think the easiest, like if he was my ally, I would feel no harm, and like he doesn't have that like connection with people. Like
mhm.
he's playing too much of like a game and forgetting that like the reason why people will make irrational decisions that maybe even hurt their game is because they like start caring for like you.
I
And
mean,
I don't
and
think Gabe's gonna do that with anyone.
yeah, and that's what TK said too before. Like, he's like before that, like in hindsight, I we didn't realize him. TK and Kyle just thought Gabe was like kind of quiet. That's why they didn't expect him to be like working with Sue and Carolyn. Also, like to add on to your point, Carolyn, like when Gabe went to Carolyn and it was like we should work together, like you, me, and Sue. She was like sure, like I see the potential, but like I still feel like we're not like clicking. And he's like, okay, well let me show you my idol to like basically bribe you into into this alliance.
Yeah, like it's so unstable. I don't think it's I think there's like a really huge chance of him just going home like if they lose soon.
Because I feel like especially like I feel like it could kind of be a what was the blind side? I think it was in season it was the Red Tribe kind of in I think it was season 45 when it was like Austin D.
Hmm.
Um it was like when they were turning on one of their core four. I think it was Drew. And so
Hmm.
it was like I think it was like everybody knew about it except for Austin because Austin was Drew's number one.
Right.
And so I feel like a similar thing could happen where it's like Tiana, Kyle, and they like pull Carolyn in to kind of
Hmm.
team up and get Gabe out
Ooh,
if they're like
that's a
really strong to get
I
on
like
his
that
nerves.
theory. I do think
Yeah,
Tiana and Kyle are like pretty close.
I agree. I'm curious to see how their dynamic will be in this next episode because
Mhm.
Tiana did kind of blindside Kyle with the
Oh
last
my god.
tribal decision. So it's
Kyle's
like
reaction was
was
like
crazy.
so he was like no. Like he was like heartbroken. Like
So
go you can go
betrayed.
watch it back. He was like
Yeah,
so like distraught.
because it was like TK was saying goodbye, and the only thing he could say was just no. I was like, this this is like heartbreaking. This feels like cinema. Like,
Another thing that happened during tribal was when Gabe stood up to play his idol and like walk over, TK was like, yes. Like when he played it for himself and not Sue, TK was like, yes, he didn't get it right. Like it's like oh
yeah,
man, they did TK so it's like any way he was like misinterpreting the game, they're like we have to put that on full display.
yeah.
Yeah.
Literally. They were like, this guy
Um,
knows nothing about the game. And then like you hear the post boot
yeah.
interview, like that's not at all the case. But
Regardless, I don't. I'm hoping, and I don't think Blue's gonna go next episode. I think it's either gonna be Yellow or Red. I think Red, they've been building up this like subplot of Rome's idol and what's gonna happen with that forever. So that could be a good segue. Um, this episode, we see Teeny gets literally caught red-handed with Keyshawn as Rome walks up on them, looking at Rome's idol.
Crazy. It's crazy that she's like, let me
mm,
show you. Like, let me bring you to it. We're gonna dig it up and we're gonna look at it together. That is insane. I don't know like why they thought that was a good idea.
also, I in like adding on to that, I feel like there was such a smarter way of going about that. Like I get that Teeny was like, I gotta tell somebody about this ASAP, but they went to see the idol in midday, in the middle of the day, almost immediately, like right when they're there. I was like, you couldn't have at least waited until like nighttime, scoped it out, made sure that Rome was asleep, and then showed him. Like, I was like, there's so many smarter ways to go about this. And I feel like I get that she was probably like, I want to make sure that it's still there, like when I show Keyshawn, but it was like, A, you didn't have anybody on like lookout just in case to like distract Rome. Like there was a lot more that I feel like could have been done to avoid it from happening. And I will say, I think Teeny handled it as well as you could in that situation. But it's like, even so, it's like you could have easily avoided this in the first place, like if you had put any more thought into it. But
Literally. With
I
I,
just even a second more thought, please.
so
yeah,
I do have a question. Like Teeny did handle it like as well as possible, but like I think there was a confessional right after where Rome was like, I can't trust Teeny anymore.
Yeah, did not buy that at all. Like,
So
no,
so what if Red goes to tribal next episode? Rome's playing his idol because he can only play. It's only good for one tribal.
yeah,
yeah,
Who is he targeting?
teeny.
You think?
I don't think so. Because I feel like
What do you
if
guys?
he, I feel like if he didn't trust Teeny, I feel like he would have started talking to other people in the tribe and been like, hey, like, just so you know, like, I like Teeny kind of like turned her back on me, like all this kind of stuff. And also, like, how is he gonna justify voting Teeny out if he would tell everybody about his idol anyways? But also on the other hand, like
Hmm,
in saying something, he's also like kind of cementing in stone that he's just gonna flush his idol
that's
at
true.
tribal anyways. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I feel like it is likely that he either targets like Teeny or maybe Keyshawn, but I might I might throw out. I think it's possible that Soul might be going out if Red goes to tribal because I
Dang.
feel like it seems like he's kind of on the outs in terms of like it doesn't seem like he has an alliance that's strong, and it doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of like on air time, and so it's like either he could easily get screwed over and get out pretty early, or they could be kind of holding off on like the screen time and waiting for a good moment to
I
like introduce him.
I do. I think you could be onto something, Beck. I think it's funny. I'm gonna switch back to the fantasy things just so we see a photo of all the cast members. Um, Both Soul and Genevieve have been getting like nothing basically.
Yeah.
Genevieve was the only person in episode 2 to get zero confessionals. So if it's not gonna be Teeny, which I hope it's not because she's on my team, I feel
Yeah.
like it's gonna be one of them too. I'm sorry to say that to you, Michael.
It can't be Genevieve. I had so many hopes for her, and this feels like, um, for everyone listening, in 45, I picked Julie because she seemed, in the preview, she seemed crazy. She seemed kind of off the wall. It was kind of giving Carolyn, and then we all know now that she was actually giving nothing. And I am so worried that this is another case where that happens, where it's like in the preview, they're like, like they're like, obviously, like, she seemed like Genevieve seemed unhinged, like delusional. She's like, I'm gonna win and get no votes, but I also don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, I'm here for it. I'm here for like the messiness of it. And she's done nothing. I mean, granted, there's not much like to do on the Red Tribe. That's why I'm intrigued to see the next episode, because I think I just need to see more from Red. Like, there hasn't been a lot happening there. Like, it's been very, very calm. Besides the teeny Rome Keyshawn thing, the other three have just it's been calm. So I feel like I need more info from
I
that
I
tribe.
will say there was another secret scene from the first episode
Oh
of
my god.
Soul was like, I need to talk to Rome and tell him like you gotta chill. Like everyone's thinking you're looking for idols, and he goes to do that, and Rome was like, okay, okay. But then after the fact, Rome in the confessional was like, Soul can't tell me like what to do. Like everyone's looking for idols, so there's definitely like a point of conflict between them two. And then they gave Genevieve a confessional too, where she was basically saying the same thing as Rome of like, we're all looking like so. It's another case of like, is this secret scene? Could this be actually foreshadowing something, or it didn't make the episode, so we don't know if it like is a reasonable way to look into the edit or not. I also I think it's just funny like Gianna has both Soul and Genevieve, and she's tied with you, Beck, right now, and it's like,
Winners, truly. I will also say though, I feel like right now with these like recent seasons, I feel like it's hard to be like, oh, they haven't gotten a lot of confessionals. They're going to be an early boot because there are characters like Katura where it's like she had like almost no screen time pre-merge and then she ended up getting fourth.
mm-hmm,
And it's like I feel like once like the people started getting phased out, it was like she was getting all this more screen time where it was like, okay, now she's an actual feasible contestant where it's like, oh, she could actually like win this thing. And so I feel like it's a possibility that like Genevieve or Soul could end up being that in the long run where it's like they could end up just like flying under the radar pre-merge and then post-merge like come into the forefront. But I feel like Soul is more of a physical threat to a lot of people. And I think, especially in these last couple of seasons, those people who are like the physical beefcakes end up getting out so much sooner than like the people who are less of a
mm-hmm.
threat.
Those
And so
beefcakes, they don't last long.
those
But
beefcakes, they're out of here.
I mean, I'll give you a play devil's advocate here.
Mm,
Last season, we saw the Purple Tribe vote out Jelinski, and then the immediate next challenge, they couldn't get the blocks because like if they had like a dude that was like 7 feet tall, would have been
mm,
really helpful. And so there were people online like speculating, well, the Yellow Tribe, they decide to keep Andy over John, which didn't seem like there's a huge difference. I mean, Andy was more physical, but he also passed out in the first challenge. But they
yeah.
did decide to end up keeping uh, Andy, and they had seen the beginning of 46 right before they went out to film. So, on one case, yeah, I mean, this was the first season since I believe Kagiyan, which was like filmed like 2014, where the first two contestants to go home are men, and that's only happened like 3 or 4 times in like the history of Survivor. Um, so I don't know. Who knows? Like it's really hard to tell. Um,
I'm kind of curious about, and Ellis, as the Survivor expert,
mhm.
I'm curious to know, has there ever been a winner that's been like kind of invisible in the beginning and then ended up going on to win, or is that just never happened?
The season 41 winner did have a pretty like minimal edit, and their tribe won like every single challenge before the merge. Um, and there was a huge backlash at the end of the season because they were like so their confessional count was so much lower and yada yada yada. I still feel like they were trying to plant little seeds, um, but since then, like every single winner, 42 through 46, like they have always gotten at least one confessional every episode. They might have one episode where they only get one here and there, but
That
that's like a
Genevieve.
constant. So
Yep,
Genevieve
bad news for Genevieve.
would bad news with Genevieve, but I also I hope the editors and production like they're willing to kind of play with how they're switching it up with how they're storytelling. Um, Another little tidbit like Australian Survivor, they had one season where there was like a duo, and the winner got like very little like content like throughout the whole season. They would be kind of like a supporting character, but once their like teammate was voted out, they suddenly like exploded and they ended up winning, and like it still kind of felt like a dominant game that they played, even though they kind of weren't shown like until like you know their partner got voted out. So I feel like there's ways to play with like how you edit the show.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting to think about because it's like I don't know. Like I'm currently, so for context, I'm currently watching season 7, while also watching season 47, which is really fun, to see the 40 year or not 40 years, the 40 seasons, it's the 20
Yeah.
years that the show has because it's like I feel like with the older seasons, it's like, oh, they don't get a lot of screen time. They're out pre-merge, except for like a couple of extenuating circumstances. Rest in peace to Savage. That actually really bummed me out. That was really fucked up. But I think with like new Survivor, it's like there's no predicting in terms of like confessional accounts because it's like you have so many different people where it's like they get
Hmm.
almost no screen time, but they end up going so far. And I think it's I actually really enjoy it because it makes it a lot less predictable than a lot of like old Survivor was. And so I feel like it's also I feel like there's a lot more willingness to like go to ties and go to rocks and to just like kind of throw the
Hmm.
dice into like what ends up happening because I feel like a lot of people are a lot less decisive on who they want out. So I think it makes it a lot more exciting and a little bit less predictable because it's like, yeah, you can take your bet as to like who's gonna get out, but it's also like once you get to the end, it's like, I don't know, like is it gonna be this person or this person? Is it gonna be Andy or John? Is it gonna be TK or Sue? And who knows? Maybe next episode will it be Gabe or the other person?
Whoever. Carolyn.
Or whoever.
Kyle, Tiana, who
Tiana.
knows? Yeah.
um, well, um, the Yellow Tribe, we haven't really brought them up at all yet,
Yes.
somehow.
From last to
The
first.
train wreck.
Yeah. The
The train
train
wreck
wreck
turned
turned up.
suddenly amazing, dazzling tribe
Yeah.
Yeah.
that got first by
Trying
a
to
long
s-
shot too.
trying
I
to
will say,
steal prop rice in the challenge to bring
honestly,
back.
Iconic.
she should have been able to steal that rice. I'm gonna say
Literally.
she was innovative enough to be like, well, it's free rice.
Hmm.
So,
And
Oh,
like
you're
um,
right.
Jeff tried to act like he's like, did I see you like stealing rice? Like Jeff, you did not. One of your little production birdies in your ear was like, Rachel tried to steal a rice. Like don't try and act like
oh,
you saw it, okay?
no,
And
literally. I feel
I
like
think
all of Survivor Twitter was like doing the meme with like being like, "Do you have rice in your pocket?" That's like really funny, but also like, just let her keep the rice.
I mean, people were making a lot of references to the Pearl Islands, Rupert stealing the shoes in like the premiere of like someone for like from someone on the other tribe and selling it. And it's
Yeah,
like you're not gonna let Rachel do that? Like what the hell? I
no, literally, it's
I
innovation
think
that excites.
Exactly.
It's true.
I the only reason why I could see why they like didn't want her to do it is because like that rice is like not meant like who knows where that rice has been like that's like in a sack as a prop like I
And it
don't
was
know what
also
kind
like,
of
wasn't it in the bottom of an ocean? Like, didn't
it went through the yeah like who knows.
It might be
right?
a
Didn't it like fall into like the ocean and they had to like get it?
But
yeah,
at the
because they
same
have to
time if you boil it like
boiling gets rid of everything.
right.
So true.
It's my stamp of approval. The FDA would love this.
Oh my gosh, Andy's idol getting technically stolen. Loved.
That
Was
I'm
obsessed.
so happy that happened. I'm sorry,
So
Andy.
funny.
I will say though, this might be controversial. I think Andy might actually end up going far. Because I think the like danger zone of him potentially getting out was like this past episode. And so I feel like especially right? And so I feel like especially like with Sam being like I want to team up with Andy and I want to work with him and him like getting Sierra into it, like I feel like the next person on Yellow getting out is probably I would put my money on Annika out of the two of them because I feel like she is a strategic threat and I feel like because um yeah, I feel like because of her proximity to everything, I feel like she might be the next one out for
I
Yellow.
I will say, we talked about Teeny and how she messed up, like, controlling the information about idols. Sam did a much better, like, he went to like every person individually and then made sure like they had a part in like finding this idol. Like Annika was like the first step. Then Rachel helped him like untie knots. And then he's like, Sierra, I want you to be here when I like find the actual idol because you are my number one. Which is like on this next time on the next time on, we see that's starting to blow up. Annika's like accusing them as a showmance, so who knows what will happen with that.
Yeah.
I will
But that was
say,
definitely
I
yeah.
hope I hope one of them goes home soon. The Sam and Sierra pair, it's too heteronormative, too like gross. It's like of course they're Sean's picks. Like the basic white man and basic white woman, like literally it's like Sam the like sports reporter and Sierra the fucking nurse. Are you kidding me? Like it's just
I think she was
I
like
feel
a
like
Miss Universe or something at some point
she
as
was Miss
well.
Delaware.
Or yeah.
Watching them feels like I'm watching like the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Like I'm it's like it feels like it's giving Mormon couple, it's giving like just basic. I'm personally not a fan, but I feel like where they're at right now, I feel like they will end up going far unless something changes. But I did not know that Annika is like calling them out for being a showman, so I'm excited for that. I hope that blows up on one of them.
Also, Andy's face when that all like shit was going down, Andy was like, like
Curling his hair where he was like,
yeah.
he's
Oh
like,
my god.
I'm when you're unburdened and unbothered. And so that's why, like, I feel like the tides are like shifting in terms of like the drama in Yellow, where it's like he's becoming, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but like kind of put on the back burner in terms of like drama and issues, at least from the tease. It's like I feel like he's kind of gonna pull an Emily, where he's like gonna kind of fall under the radar, and people are gonna
Redemption
like,
arc.
yeah, I feel like he's gonna have a bit of a redemption arc. Kind of like what you were, I think Ellis, you mentioned it in your first podcast episode.
Yeah, I may have. Yeah.
I listened.
Mm,
Let's go.
Fan.
I'm a
Um,
fan, yes.
Yeah.
Another thing that's worth mentioning, Sam got 16 confessionals this past episode. It's one of the reasons why Sean like jumped so
Crazy.
high. Yeah, and he found the idol. So huge episode for Sam. I think he got the fishy as well. So just like he kind of just swept. The only thing he didn't get was the episode title, which Sue ended up getting.
My
But
girl Sue.
That's so
16
soon.
confessionals that like is like ties for like the fourth most in like one episode in like Survivor history or something.
So
So yeah, I he seems to be this episode he felt like a lot more cocky than the episode before. Like okay, here I have a question for you guys. What do you think on Sam's decision to ask Sierra like I kind of want to keep like would I be crazy if I play the idol on Andy? And Sierra just like face drops like I wouldn't want to do that, you know? So one, do you think it was a good thing he told her? And two, should he do it?
I don't know. I think it was an interesting decision because I think it kind of shows how Andy's kind of making a shift, but I almost don't think it'll matter because I think it'll end up being either, I would say either Andy or either Rachel or Annika, but I almost feel like if the three of them are able to like get together and kind of pull a blindside, I feel like it almost won't even matter if he plays the idol on um like on Andy. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't know if it was the best decision to tell Sierra about it because there's always a small chance that she would end up blabbing, which I don't think she will because of their like tight alliance and potentially
Mm-hmm.
showman. But I think it'll be interesting to see how it unfurls because it's like there is a chance that he could play it on Andy. I feel like no matter what happens though, he's gonna play it at the next tribal. It just really ends up being a question of like whether he's gonna play it on himself or on somebody else. Because like almost everybody in the tribe, minus Andy, knows that he has the idol. So it's
Oh
like
my god, yeah.
there's definitely that pressure of like he's gonna end up playing it sooner rather than later to make sure it doesn't get
Yeah,
flashed.
every single person that has found this idol, they it seems like people are just trying to get rid of it as fast as possible right after finding it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like it's interesting because 46 was so much of like people getting voted out before they could even play the idol. And I feel like 47 now is everybody knowing about the idol and playing it as soon as possible. Actually, logistical question for you, Ellis.
Hmm.
After Gabe played his idol at this past tribal, is there gonna be another immunity idol? Do we know that's gonna be planted on the island again?
I would assume so. They tend to rehide idols once they're played. But it probably won't be like a beware. It probably will just be like a normal idol. Um,
Yeah.
my thing with Sam though is like I understand he's like afraid of like being the one guy in this like alliance of four, and like he doesn't want to be put in a position where they lose the next two immunities, and suddenly they vote out Andy, and then he's there, and it's like it's him and Sierra. Best case scenario, it's him and Sierra trying to convince either Rachel or Annika to flip.
Yeah.
Whereas if he plays the idol on Andy, then he has him and Andy, and then Sierra and whoever the fourth is if they go to two. My thing is though, like I feel like you have this tight alliance with the three other girls. Preserve that. Andy, maybe he could be worth it, but like probably not. Like, sorry, Andy. Just for Sam's case, I feel like if anything, those three girls are more of like you can kind of hide behind them come merge. And if you do go to like another tribal with just the three of them, you have your idol to play. Like they're not gonna you can't get voted out from the three of them. So I don't know. I don't think Sam should have told Sierra his. I think that's information. Like if you're planning on using it on Andy, don't. I wouldn't too far into. You're thinking too far in advance. Like you
Yeah.
can think that
I
far in advance, but don't like be trying to like ask your alliance members like, hey, what do you think? I don't know.
I would almost argue the opposite because I feel like with him bringing Andy into like the like an alliance of three, they
Mm-hmm.
would be able to overpower the other two. And the next time, if they go to tribal again pre-merge, it would be 3v1. And so it's like you have an additional like easy collateral to get rid of. And so there's no risk of him being on the chopping block. Whereas if it was him and the three girls and they take out the easy pick of Andy, then it's basically him and Sierra versus Rachel and Annika. And there's like a 50-50 chance that he's gonna like either like um Annika and Rachel are able to
Mm-hmm.
pull in Sierra and get like um Sam out, or Sam and Sierra are able to convince one of them to get the other out, or it ends up going to rocks and everything goes to shit. So I feel like I feel like there's
Oh,
almost
okay, I
more
hope so. I hope it's that one.
with 3. Yeah, good cinema, good television, but yeah, would be like
Honestly.
super chaotic. So I don't know. I almost feel like it's better for Sam's game to ally with Andy in the moment because then it gives him and Sierra a lot more power. So I don't know. I love playing devil's advocate. So
And now I'm interested to know what they're gonna do because it's like I feel like it's so easy to blow up Sam's game because all Annika or Rachel has to do is be like, hey, Sam has an idol, right? And Andy's gonna be like, so
yeah,
everyone knew but me. And then
yeah,
it's gonna be the whole fucking coconut, no one clapped for me all over again and like break down and call
Oh
outs
man.
and so I feel like it's definitely I don't think it would be the right move to really try and for Sam to kind of try and put his like eggs in Andy's basket, as weird as that sounds. Like, because like I
Put your
feel like there's
chopped
already
coconuts in Andy's arms.
literally because it's like I feel like there's like Andy's already so on the outs that trying to make him feel included, I feel like is just going to be more of a betrayal later on that you can just like call out. So it is interesting.
Mm.
I'm interested if anyone's gonna call Sam out on that for him telling everyone about the idol except Andy, and also technically stealing Andy's idol. Like, Granted, he did leave it there, but I imagine it wouldn't leave a great taste in Andy's mouth.
Yeah. But I feel
Because
like that's
Sam
also
also told him to not look for idols and also said, don't do that. And then
The babysitter
Sam
failed his
proceeds,
job.
literally, and then Sam not only proceeds to lose him, but then look for idols after telling Andy not to. If I was Andy, I'd be like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? You literally sat me down, said, don't look for idols, so you could look for an idol? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'd be pissed. So I'm interested to know how that goes.
yeah. I think that's why he was so intent on like using it on Andy as like kind of an olive branch of like, I know I fucked you over, but here's this idol. Like, because it's yours
Like,
anyways, technically.
I
sorry,
So
just
Jesse.
I think you're getting too I think you're getting too fancy with trying to save Andy. Like he's already on the outs. Keep things simple. You have this alliance of four, and if worst case scenario, you're losing again, and you have an idol to save yourself.
yeah.
But we've hit the 46-minute point, so
Okay.
let's wrap it up with what tribe we think is losing and who do we think is going home. Just a final prediction to wrap it up. I, after talking through it more, ooh, I don't know. I think yellow's going back again. I don't think red's going. I think red is just like the dominant tribe that like maybe there'll be a tribe swap or something. But until then, they're sitting pretty. So I think yellow's going, and I don't know. I think Andy's going home. I think they tried to play up the like showmance like drama as like, oh, maybe they're gonna split, but I think ultimately just Andy's gonna go home.
That's fair. I think okay, I think Blue Tribe is gonna lose again because like
Whoa.
they lost one of their strongest players. I
That's
feel like
true.
it's gonna be a physical challenge, and I feel like they might just like combust a little bit, you know? And so I think as much as I'd like to see Gabe go home, I think Kyle will end up going home because I think he's kind of on the outs right now.
No.
I'm sorry.
Don't
I don't
say
want him to
that.
go home, but like I feel like he's kind of on the outs right now, and so I feel like he might have a good chance of like getting screwed over in the long run because it's like, yeah, he has this thing with Tiana, but she already backstabbed him once, and so it's like, who's to say she won't end up doing it again to make sure that she stays in another round.
Mm,
So that's my
true.
prediction. Yeah.
I think yellow's gonna go. I think yellow's gonna go
Whoa.
tribal, and I'm gonna throw out a crazy theory. I think Sierra's gonna go home.
What?
That,
Mm.
that's my.
Oh.
I think. I think it's gonna get like hectic. People are gonna see the Sam and Sierra duo. Sam has an idol, make him think that they're voting for him, and then flip it onto Sierra. It's
Mm.
like I think it'd be honestly pretty easy. Like um as long as
Hmm.
you keep Sam in the dark about it and he doesn't play an idol on her, I think it might be some like crazy shit like that where I feel like if yellow goes to tribal, it's like I don't think it's gonna be predictable at all. I think because Annika just even in the preview calling Sam and Sierra out for being like a showmans, I think already creates that divide and already like so I think Andy's like already kind of in the clear. Um
And I
which
feel like
is like yeah, which was what you were saying earlier, Beck. Like I kind of agree with you where it's like he's not the focal point anymore. It's everyone's like, no, Andy's just like crazy, but like he had his little outburst and I'll probably keep having more, but like we just don't tell him things anymore and we're gonna move on. Whereas now so now they're working on like the real threats and I think you could and I think like they might want to keep Sam around for physical like reasons and I think they might try to get Sierra out. So that's my prediction.
Mm.
because adding on to that, this is the last round where all like they could have the majority in breaking up the Sam Sierra duo. And so like if
Mm-hmm.
they're starting to catch on that they're like the closest alliance in the tribe, it could be a really smart play to try and break them up before they lose the majority in the tribe.
And Rachel probably still has some pull on Andy.
That's true.
So
Because Andy was like, "Oh my God, number one alliance," and Rachel was like, "No."
no,
Rachel was like, "Get me away from this." Which almost
Yeah.
like cameras actually.
Yeah, and if you throw in the fact about like Sam and telling everyone about the idol except Andy, I feel like you got a pretty good case to get Andy on your side if you're in Rachel or Annika's position. So
That's really true.
Ooh, dang.
so I
Okay.
guess we'll see who's right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
None of us think Red's going, even after all the teeny Rome drama.
I think they just
Um.
like to splash in a little bit of every
Mhm.
tribe, like
Yeah.
just so it doesn't feel like who are these random six people that like just appeared
Mhm.
out of nowhere.
I will say this season's Red Tribe kind of reminds me of season 45's Red Tribe, where it's like they get all of this drama and they get all of this attention, but then nothing
Mhm.
ever comes of it because they are like physically better than the
So,
other tribes. So they just like essentially
see,
get carried through pre-jury or pre what merge.
who is it? Was it
Pretty
was Sifu? It was Sifu and J Maya on the
Yeah,
outs.
yeah.
yeah. Never got
Where at least
Sifu's kind of like the soul, and J Maya's kind of like the Rome.
I will say at least with this, the Red Tribe seems a lot more separated. Maybe that's just because they refuse to show Genevieve at all, so I don't know what her standing is with any of them. Because
Yeah.
I think they only showed her making an alliance with Rome, and that's all I've seen. Or trying to do that, and then offering that to Teeny, and Teeny being like, "No, I kind of want to work with Aisha instead." And so,
I think Aish, I, I, Genevieve wanted to be in an alliance with Teeny and Rome, and
Keyshawn.
Keyshawn, but Teeny was like, let's hold that fourth spot for Aisha, or let's see once Aisha gets back, maybe she'll be the fourth. If not, then Rome.
Yeah. Which I feel like Aisha
So
hasn't gotten like any like
yeah, she was
screen
kind of
time.
invisible
Yeah, which
recently.
I think is interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for watching our second episode of the podcast.
In fact, thank you so much for being on.
Thank
Absolutely.
you for
Yes.
having me.
Becca's
I
back.
hope I'm back
Beck
as well.
is back. Beck is so back.
I was happy to be here. Hopefully I gave some unbiased opinions because I have almost no stakes in the game anymore. So yeah, thank you
All
for
right.
having me.
Well, with that, adios, everyone. See you.
Bye.